I lost an eye, so I decided to play the part of a blind man and took up work as a masseur. On my very first job, a wealthy woman took a liking to me. She paid a handsome sum to have me for a week. The other guys were green with envy, but only I knew the torment it involved. Yue Song was the first client I encountered after I started pretending to be blind. To be fair, I was half blind anyway. I'd lost my left eyeball in an accident. My friends always called me Cyclops. Fed up, I'd had enough, so I put on a pair of sunglasses and started my new career in blind massage. As was routine, I was scheduled to service Yue Song today. She wasn't old, just past 30, but she maintained herself so well she could pass for a girl of 17 or 18. Her villa was in a sparsely populated suburban area. I arrived at the entrance and gave the doorbell a light press. A few moments later, the door opened from the inside. Yue Song stood there in a sheer pink dress, her damp hair draped over her back. Her legs were smooth, delicate, and completely bare. If it weren't for the sunglasses concealing my wolfish gaze, she probably would have thrown me out for harassment. "Leo, you're here," she said, her red lips pursed into a smile. Her voice was pleasant and incredibly alluring. I folded my guide cane and followed her into the villa. I had already become familiar with the layout. Yue Song preferred her massages in the third room on the second floor, a room that was always drenched in sunlight. She loved to lie there naked, basking in the sun's rays. I still remembered the first time she did it. She had looked at me with those foxy eyes and asked, "Am I beautiful?" Sure enough, we were in the same room today. The moment she entered, Yue Song slipped off the flimsy sheer dress, her only garment, and sat cross-legged on the bed, completely naked. I couldn't help but swallow hard. "Leo, are you really blind, or are you faking it?" My heart sank. I immediately averted my gaze. "Miss Song, please don't tease me. Take off your sunglasses." I'm afraid I can't. "I don't want to frighten you, Miss Song." In my line of sight, I saw Yue Song's lips curl into a smirk. She hopped off the bed, barefoot, and tiptoed towards me. I knew I couldn't move. She came up behind me and wrapped her arms tightly around my neck. Her warm breath ghosted across my skin. I had to admit, the white peach fragrance she wore was intoxicating. My body trembled, and I flinched back slightly. "Miss Song, my eye is horrifying to look at. And this isn't appropriate." To my surprise, instead of letting go, she held on even tighter, pressing her entire body against my back. Her cheek pressed against mine, and I could feel both our body temperatures rising. With one hand, she plucked the sunglasses from my face and tossed them to the floor. Then she gripped my shoulders and spun me around to face her. I stared at her, my eyes wide. Without the barrier of the glasses, I could see her flawless, porcelain skin even more clearly. "What happened to your eyes? Are both of them gone?" Yue Song waved a hand in front of my face. "I lost one in an accident. The nerve in the other one was damaged, and over time, I lost sight in it too." I heard her sigh. "What a shame. You're a handsome young man." "Thank you, Miss Song." I patted the bed beside me, indicating that she should lie down. After all, I was just a blind masseur. I had to stick to my role and do what I was supposed to do. "It's so hot today, Leo. Why don't you go take a shower first?" There was a hint of laughter in her voice. I lowered my head and swallowed again. The thought wasn't entirely unwelcome. I stood up. "All right. Where's the bathroom? Let me show you. After leading me in, she showed no signs of leaving. Instead, she just stared at me with a seductive look in her eyes. Her gaze made my skin crawl. I instinctively turned away. Miss Song, I can manage on my own. Fine. After the sound of footsteps faded, I turned back around. My eyes fell upon the vision of a completely naked Yue Song. She just stood there, watching me. Flustered, I knocked over a bottle of shampoo. I couldn't let her see that I wasn't blind. I turned my back again, switched on the shower heater, and, with my body tensed, began to wash myself. Yue Song remained where she was, standing motionless behind me. When I was nearly done, I pretended to feel around the countertop. My hand found a bath towel, and I breathed a sigh of relief. But just as I pulled at it, Yue Song grabbed the other end. I tugged twice, but the towel remained firmly in her grasp. Feigning ignorance, I felt around the counter again. Miss Song, I called out, the towel seems to be caught on something. I can't pull it free. I had no choice but to ask for her help, even though she was standing right there. Yue Song suddenly burst out laughing and wrapped her arms around my waist. Her warm body pressed against mine. The water droplets on her skin seemed to have a magical quality, sending a tingling, numbing sensation through my entire body. Leo, try to touch me. Miss Song, I'll be touching you during the massage. You know that's not what I mean. As she spoke, she knelt before me. I froze, one hand gripping the edge of the sink, my eyes afraid to look down. This was a first for me. So much better than doing it myself. Youth truly is wasted on the young, she murmured. Yue Song stood up, took my hand, and gave me a playful smile. Then she led me back to the bedroom. Was this it? The main event? Just as she was about to push me onto the bed, the doorbell rang at the most inopportune moment. Yue Song suppressed a look of annoyance, put on her clothes, and went downstairs. I seized the opportunity to get dressed myself, waiting for her to return. I started to look around the bedroom, and my attention was drawn to a photograph. The woman in the picture wasn't Yue Song, though she looked to be about the same age. A man stood beside her, his arm wrapped around her waist. They looked incredibly happy. Why would someone keep an intimate photo of other people in their own bedroom? What a strange habit. A short while later, Yue Song came back upstairs, her steps light. She seemed to be in a good mood. You're already dressed? Yes. I found myself looking down, embarrassed. This was no time to play the saint. Are you afraid my other half will come back? I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. To my surprise, Yue Song chuckled. What are you thinking? My other half died a long time ago. All of his assets are mine now, understand? No wonder. No wonder she could so brazenly bring a masseur home. Yue Song stripped naked again and lay down on the bed, waving me over. Come on, give me a massage. Finally, back to business. I took the necessary items from my case and dripped essential oil onto her smooth back. I pressed a single finger down and let it glide slowly downwards. Yue Song let out a low moan, then fell silent. I worked my way up from her waist, my hands moving higher and higher until they reached her chest. I was about to pull my hands back when she grabbed my wrist. Continue. Everything seemed to happen naturally. Yue Song's closed eyes snapped open, her gaze fixed on me with wild abandon. The back of my ears began to burn. Miss Song, this isn't appropriate. Inappropriate? If I say it's appropriate, it's appropriate. Well, it wasn't me who was losing out. I threw caution to the wind. Aided by the oil, my hands roamed freely over her body. In this line of work, whether a massage is good or bad is up to the customer. My friend had told me that this industry had its dark side. Of course, my friend had been less fortunate. He'd once been beaten black and blue by a client during a house call. Looking at the relaxed and contented Yue Song on the bed, I suddenly felt rather lucky. At least I wouldn't be walking away with any physical injuries. Daydreaming? Yue Song's voice pulled me back to reality. I gave her an embarrassed smile. Sorry. How about this? Don't leave tonight. Spend the night with me, and I'll forgive you. But, Leo. Yue Song sat up on the bed and, before I could speak, sealed my lips with hers. The soft, warm sensation spread from my mouth throughout my entire body. This feeling, too, was a first. Miss Song, I murmured, pretending to resist. Yue Song's lips curled into a cold smirk. I know you want this too. She gripped me tightly with one hand, a smile playing on her lips that made me blush. She pressed her heated body against mine. At this point, if I refused again, I wouldn't be a real man. I pulled her into a tight embrace, flipped her over, and, holding the back of her neck, took control. This felt right. Eventually, I was too exhausted to move, lying on the bed and gazing at the heaving form of Yue Song beside me. Before I knew it, I had drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Yue Song was still lying in my arms. Her breathing was shallow, and the scent of white peaches filled the air around me. This wasn't a dream, was it? It couldn't be. I hadn't even been a masseur for a month, and I was already sleeping with a client. My friend was right. This industry was a murky business. I fumbled my way into a sitting position, wanting to get out of there as quickly as possible. Yue Song stirred drowsily and wrapped her arms tightly around my waist. Up so early? Where are you going? Her voice was hoarse. She was clearly exhausted from the previous night. I patted her arm. It's time to get up. In response, Yue Song groaned in protest and burrowed deeper into the covers. Fine. I wouldn't get up either. I lay back down, wrapped my arm around her shoulders, and we fell back into a deep sleep, pressed close together. The second time I woke up, Yue Song was gone. I shot out of bed like a spring, hastily threw on my clothes, and rushed into the bathroom. The marks on my neck and body were a sight to behold. Leo, come down for breakfast. Hearing her voice, I instantly relaxed. I put on my blind act again, felt for the doorframe, and carefully made my way downstairs. Yue Song was glowing, and the loving breakfast she had prepared looked as good as it smelled. Miss Song, I'm so embarrassed. Yue Song just smiled dismissively. You need to replenish your strength. What was that supposed to mean? That I had gone to sleep too early last night? That couldn't be it. Miss Song, if you'll help me with my sunglasses in a bit, I'll head back to the office to check in. No need. I've already requested leave for you. You belong to me for the entire week. Me? What do you mean? Isn't it obvious? For this whole week, you are mine. My pathetic brain's first thought was that I wouldn't be able to use my phone for a week. Did the company agree to this? Of course they agreed. When the price is right, what's not to agree to? That includes you. As long as you provide good service, you'll be well compensated. Great, Not even a month into the job and I'm already being kept by a rich woman. Was I on the path to the pinnacle of my life? And the rich woman was young, beautiful, and had a great body. I had hit the jackpot. Ever since she found out I was truly blind, Yue Song had become even more unrestrained at home. She'd claim she was doing yoga, but would actually strip naked and dance for me to music. It was a good thing my self-control was decent, otherwise a nosebleed would have been hard to explain. At first, she would only dance in front of me. Later, as if that wasn't enough, she started having me watch her bathe, and even watch her pleasure herself with her little toys. And let me tell you, Yue Song had quite a collection of toys. "Leo, go get some ice cubes from the freezer for me." I thought she was hot from her activities and wanted to cool down. But when I brought the ice back, I understood her true intention. It certainly opened my eyes. I had never seen such a scene before. "Leo, are you hot?" How could I answer? I naturally went along with her. "It is a little warm." Yue Song took my hand and pressed it against the cold surface. "Isn't that much better?" Physically, I wasn't hot anymore, but my heart was growing more and more agitated. In the end, things once again took their natural course. And so, Yue Song and I spent a full week together in a daze. When I finally returned to the office, my colleagues all gave me strange looks. Was it pity? Gloating? I thought it was mostly pity. After all, I felt sorry for myself too. They say a woman in her 30s is as fierce as a tiger, and this time, I had experienced it firsthand. Well, look who's back. How was it? Want me to treat you to a good meal or two to help you recover? I shrugged off my friend's arm. Get away from me. Don't be a smartass. By the way, that Yue Song is really strange. I heard from a few of the other rich wives that she moved in last year. As soon as she moved in, her husband died. And she never goes out. I shook my head. Isn't that just the life of the rich? Who would want to go out if they had money? Stop talking. I need to go home. All right. My good friend helped me up and walked me home. Only he and I knew that I was faking my blindness. He was the one who had gotten me the job. Back home, I thought carefully about what Yue Song had said, her unusual behavior, and what my friend had told me. A cold sweat broke out on my back. A chilling feeling crept over me. Before long, Yue Song requested my massage services again. This time, the fee was a full 5 times higher than the last. Money was money. I packed my things and headed to the villa. The weather had been bad these past few days. It looked like it was about to rain. It was late at night by the time I arrived at the villa. Yue Song, however, was dressed very conservatively in jeans and a denim jacket, her hair tied back neatly. She looked so young. "Come in." I put down my guide cane and sat down next to her. She looked troubled, constantly glancing outside as if waiting for someone. "I didn't ask you here for a massage today. I want you to keep me company." "Miss Song, you're joking. All you have to do is ask, and I'd be more than happy to keep you company." For a rare moment, Yue Song relaxed and smiled. She just sat there beside me until the doorbell rang again. I followed her gaze to the door. It was probably a delivery. The voice sounded familiar, like the person from last time. "Where's the money?" The delivery guy's voice was urgent, almost demanding. I heard Yue Song lower her voice. After years of pretending to be blind, my hearing had become incredibly sharp. What she thought was a whisper was crystal clear to me. I already gave you this month's payment. You've already taken 150,000. Isn't that enough? How could that be enough? 150,000 should be nothing to you. How many 150,000s is this big villa worth? Don't push your luck. The guy glanced into the room and then continued viciously, and you're keeping a toy boy. Does he know who you really are? Her true identity? What was Yue Song's true identity? Before I could hear any more, Yue Song had closed the door and returned. What took so long? Who was that? She patted her chest to calm herself. Just a delivery. As night fell, Yue Song lay in my arms, silent. She didn't make a move. There was an unexpected sense of peace and quiet. You seem unhappy. At my words, she sighed softly. Yes, a little. Can you tell me why? I lowered my head and kissed her on the forehead. We had been intimate for a week, a little concern was only right. But Yue Song didn't speak, just sighed again and turned away. It seemed she had something she couldn't talk about. As night deepened, a cold wind began to blow outside, and soon it started to rain. The sky was a gloomy gray, and the room plunged into darkness. Yue Song slowly fell asleep beside me, and I closed my eyes as well. Ah! All of you, get out! In the middle of the night, Yue Song's sudden scream jolted me awake. I could feel the terror in the person beside me. She was trembling, shouting. It wasn't me. You have nothing to do with me. Get out. I tried to wake her, but it was no use. Her voice grew louder, as if trying to drown out the sound of the rain outside. Miss Song, are you all right? You're all crazy. All of you. With one final scream, Yue Song's eyes flew open. She stared at me blankly, then got out of bed and turned on the light. I felt for the door frame and followed her downstairs. She went straight to the refrigerator, opened it, and then closed it again without taking anything out. I asked again from behind her, "Did you have a nightmare?" "No," she answered curtly. I didn't press the issue. She sat on the living room sofa in a daze, her gaze vacant, occasionally glancing at the refrigerator. Suddenly, a flash of lightning lit up the outside, followed by a loud clap of thunder. Yue Song instantly curled into a ball, pressing herself tightly into the corner of the sofa. "Miss Song, are you okay?" Hearing my voice, Yue Song came over and hugged me, burying her head in my chest. I could feel her whole body was tense, her hands and feet ice cold. So, she was afraid of thunder and rain. No wonder she had asked me to come over and keep her company today. And so, I sat with Yue Song like that all night. The next morning, she woke up in my arms. I was still in the same position as last night, leaning against the sofa, one arm around her. The doorbell rang at an inconvenient moment. Yue Song flinched, then walked towards the door, looking back every 3 steps. She checked the security monitor to see who it was before opening the door. Well, how are you doing all alone in this big villa?" a woman said as she walked in. She glanced at me and then added, "Oh, so you're not alone. What are you doing here?" Yue Song's tone was hostile. Their relationship was clearly not good. "I came to see you, my dear sister." Sister? This old woman was Yue Song's sister? They didn't look alike at all. Anyone who didn't know better would think she was Yue Song's mother. Yue Song pushed at the woman. "Leave now. You're not welcome here. Now." I heard from Nan that you gave him a lot of money. How about giving some to me? I'm your sister too, you know. What more do you want? Sister? Have you ever acted like a sister for a single day? The woman sneered. Give me 500,000, or I'm not leaving. 500,000? That's outrageous. Do you think I'm an ATM? I had never seen this side of Yue Song before. The Yue Song I knew was always glamorous and sophisticated. This version of her, on the verge of a breakdown, was a rare sight. So you're not giving it to me? Fine, I'll just live here then. The woman tried to push her way in. Yue Song grabbed her clothes, dragged her out, and threw her to the ground. Yue Song stared down at the woman on the floor. Don't underestimate me. With that, she went back inside and slammed the door shut. That was quite a performance. Back inside, Yue Song opened the refrigerator again. She took a bottle of Coke from the top shelf, opened it, and poured it directly into the second compartment. What on earth was she doing? Finally, she slammed the refrigerator door shut and turned to me with a smile. It was a bright, captivating smile. Will you wait for me at home? Wait for you? Yes. I'm going out for a bit. I won't be long. A customer's request. Of course, I agreed. Yue Song really trusted me, treating me like a truly blind person. After she left, I felt bored and started wandering around her house. I went up to the second floor. Apart from the third room, I had never been in any of the others. Curiosity got the better of me, and I pushed open the first door. It seemed to be a study. There were 2 or 3 bookshelves filled with all sorts of books, and the desk was covered in a layer of dust. On the desk was another photograph. The woman in this one must be Yue Song, and the man next to her was the same one from the other picture. How did his companion become Yue Song now? I left the study and went into the first bedroom. There was a strange smell of decay in the air. It was probably because no one had lived in it for a long time, and something had been left to rot. I quickly left the room and stood at the top of the stairs, looking down. Unconsciously, I found myself wanting to check the refrigerator. Yue Song's actions earlier had been truly puzzling. I slowly opened the top compartment. It was just some vegetables and drinks. The second compartment. I could feel my hands trembling, as if there was something unseeable in the second compartment. I steeled myself, gave it a hard pull, and when I saw what was inside, I fell to the floor in terror. Was that a human hand? Not just one pair. There must have been 2. And there were other parts, scattered throughout the freezer. My mind went blank. Yue Song was a murderer. Before I could react, I heard the sound of a car pulling up outside. I knew that if Yue Song found out I was faking my blindness and had discovered her secret in the refrigerator, I would very likely be her next victim. Fighting back my fear, I closed the refrigerator door and sat back down in the living room, waiting for her to return. A few minutes later, Yue Song pushed open the door. She was covered in fresh blood. She wore gloves, also stained red. Who had she killed this time? I thought about calling the police, but my phone was still in the third room on the second floor. If I went to get it now, it would be too obvious. After taking a deep breath, I asked, "You're back?" That was quick. Yue Song glanced in my direction, her eyes sharp. I swallowed hard, afraid she had noticed something. "Yes, I'm back." A moment later, I saw her drag a suitcase out of the car's trunk and limp towards the second room on the second floor, the one with the smell of decay. Then came the sound of banging and crashing. I was too scared to make a sound. Now I finally knew what the rotting smell in that room was. After a long while, Yue Song came out of the room, still dragging the suitcase. She had changed into a new set of clothes. Shall we go for a hike? A hike? Oh, okay. I didn't want to agree, but she had a knife. I knew that as a man, I might not necessarily be at a disadvantage, but who knew how many lives she had taken? If I pushed her too far, it might just mean one more death. I sat in the passenger seat and watched her throw the suitcase into the trunk before getting back into the driver's seat. It sounds like you brought something else with you. Yes, I brought some household trash. Since we're going hiking, I thought I'd just throw it all away. Household trash. More like a body. The entire journey felt excruciatingly long. Finally, Yue Song parked the car on a deserted mountain in the suburbs. Below the mountain was a winding river. It would be easy for her to kill me too, just to push over the edge. I watched as she dragged the suitcase out of the trunk, put on her gloves, and threw the suitcase off the mountain. So that was how she disposed of the bodies. I didn't dare to speak, afraid that one wrong word would expose my faked blindness. I had only one thought in my mind: get home as quickly as possible and call the police. During the hike with Yue Song, she didn't say much. Perhaps she was calming down after the fact. She seemed absent-minded. It would be so much better if you weren't blind. If I weren't blind, I'd be truly finished. The moment the words left my mouth, I admit I panicked. Yue Song stared at me intently. A cold sweat broke out on my back. The hands in the freezer seemed to be waving at me. I cleared my throat. If I weren't blind, I would never have met you. And my life would truly be over then. After saying that, fearing she wouldn't believe me, I even made a point of moving my prosthetic eye. Yue Song just forced a light-hearted laugh and turned her head away. Let's go. Let's go home. Okay. On the way down the mountain, Yue Song kept her head down. My right eyelid twitched. I had a bad feeling that something was about to happen. Ouch! I heard Yue Song cry out and fall to the ground. I instinctively took a step forward, my mind racing, then quickly pulled my foot back. Miss Song, are you alright? Yue Song, sitting on the ground, smiled at me and then got up. I'm fine. I just slipped. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief, praying that she hadn't noticed anything. Back at the house, I made an excuse about having something to do and rushed straight to the second floor. Yue Song followed me. What's the hurry? I just wanted to pack my things and get back to the office. I went upstairs, and Yue Song stood at the landing, glanced at me, then turned and walked into the study. I quickly pulled out my phone to call the police, but before I could dial, I heard Yue Song knocking on the door. Leo, why did you lock the door? I was just about to dial when my phone gave a low battery warning and shut down. You have got to be kidding me. It was just a habit. I locked it without thinking. Hurry up and open it. From her tone, it seemed like she hadn't discovered anything. But what if she had? She was capable of murder with such calm composure, faking ignorance must be second nature to her. At this point, I looked at the black screen of my phone. I might as well just come clean. This was her house, she definitely had a key. When she opened the door, what if she had a weapon? I'd be a fish on the chopping block. No, wait. I'm a grown man. I should be able to handle this. Yue Song, I advise you to turn yourself in. There was a sudden silence from outside the door, followed by Yue Song's wild laughter. So you knew all along? It must have been hard, pretending to be blind for so long. Turn yourself in. I've already called the police. They'll be here soon. You can't escape. The doorknob rattled a few times. It was clear she couldn't open it. Yue Song would definitely find a way in. I looked at the cabinet next to me and, without a second thought, moved the nightstand to block the door. A charger. There had to be a charger in this room. I frantically started rummaging through the drawers. Why did I forget to bring a charger when I left the house? Leo, don't you want to know who the two people in the freezer are? This was not the time for storytelling. Once we were at the police station, I would find out who the bodies were. Yue Song seemed to have given up. She must have been leaning against the door as she began to tell her story. I'm actually a twin. I have an older sister, the real owner of this house, the real Yue Song. I'm the imposter. My name is Yue. I had searched every drawer, but there was no charger. If I didn't call the police, once this imposter named Yue got in, I was a dead man. Why should my sister get to marry into a rich family and not me? So, my brother Nan, who grew up with me, and I worked together to kill Yue Song, and then her husband. Now, all of this belongs to me. A madwoman. She was a complete madwoman. I moved the bed to block the door. Underneath the bed, there was an abandoned charger. It was a lifesaver. I quickly plugged in my phone and waited for it to turn on. Outside the door, Yue's incessant talking continued. Now, Nan is dead too. No one can threaten me. Leo, come out. As long as you keep my secret, you and I can be a tragic couple in this villa. A tragic couple. I felt more like a plucked chicken. The phone finally turned on. I immediately dialed the police. The voice at the door stopped. After I hung up, the knocking became more frantic. You lied to me. You're only calling the police now. The noise outside the door stopped again. Footsteps faded into the distance, then grew closer again, finally turning into the sound of someone smashing the door. Had she gone to the basement to get a hammer? This woman was ruthless. This wooden door wouldn't hold up against Yue's hammering for long. In a few blows, she had smashed it open from the outside. Luckily, the bed and cabinet were still blocking the way, buying me some time. I could only hope the police would arrive quickly. Yue, it's not too late to turn yourself in. The police already know you're a murderer. You can't run. So what? At worst, I'll just take one more person down with me. My God, she was completely unreasonable. I'm a man. You might not be able to beat me. You underestimate me. My sister and that man, neither of them could beat me. It turned out that not confronting her directly had been the right choice. Now, I just needed to stall for time until the police arrived. You, right? Do you want to hear my story? Since I'm going to die anyway, I might as well tell you the truth about my eye. You seem to have listened. She stopped what she was doing and began to listen to my story quietly. My mother accidentally killed my father. When I was a child, I was always bullied. One time, a kid was bullying me. I wanted to get revenge, but he stuck a 1-inch nail right into my eye. Just like that, I lost one of my eyes. I don't know if my story was too boring or what, but you picked up the hammer and stood up again. With a grin, she smashed the door open. I hid behind the bed, trembling. This door wouldn't last much longer. After a few more hits, the door was reduced to a pile of splinters. You and I stared at each other across the bed, her eyes filled with murderous intent. She threw down the hammer and climbed onto the bed, walking towards me step by step with a smile on her face. Weren't you happy with me? Why did you call the police? This was bound to happen sooner or later. You've killed so many people. They've been dead for a year, and no one knew. People like Nan deserve to die. Let me tell you, this house is actually full of surveillance cameras. I only didn't check them because I trusted you. I never thought you'd lie to me and say you were blind. Cameras? I looked up. They must be hidden cameras, impossible to see on the surface. So, this woman was guilty, wasn't she? Slowly, I heard the faint sound of police sirens in the distance. I could see that you was about to lunge at me. I grabbed a vase from the cabinet and pointed it at her. Don't come any closer. You just smiled dismissively. You think you can stop me with that? Do you really think you're a match for me? Seeing her confidence, my own resolve wavered. I could only pray in my heart that the police would arrive quickly. Faced with Yu's steady advance, I trembled as I backed away. At worst, we would both go down together. You pulled out a dagger from behind her back. The sharp blade reflected the light, dazzling in the sunlight. I threw the vase at her. It crashed to the ground with a clang, shattering into pieces. This seemed to have aroused Yu's predatory instincts. It turns out women are like men, the more you resist, the more excited they get. Unfortunately, I was the prey now. Seeing that I had no more room to retreat, I could only close my eyes and accept my fate. It was better to die now. When the police arrived, they could just collect my body. At least I wouldn't have to spend 2 years in a freezer. In the end, the knife did not fall on me. Instead, you hugged me tightly. I slowly opened my eyes and met Yu's crimson gaze, my brows furrowed in confusion. You cupped my face and pressed it against her own. The coldness of her cheek told me that the woman holding me now was a homicidal maniac. Did I dare to resist? No. Why did you call the police? Couldn't we have just been together like this? I could feel her whole body leaning against me, as if she was letting go of everything. The police sirens were getting closer. You naturally heard them too. I pushed her away. You took over Yue Song's life. How are you any different from a parasite? Well said. There was no anger on Yu's face, but the atmosphere around her was terrifying. I was a man, after all. If I gave in just like that, it would be a joke. But she had a knife. You brandished the dagger in front of my eyes. What if I were to poke out your other eye? Wouldn't that be fulfilling your wish? Don't joke around. I admit, it's impossible not to be nervous at a time like this. Just as you took another step closer, I had enough. I grabbed her wrist, twisted her arm behind her back, and pinned her to the ground. With my other hand, I snatched the dagger from her grasp. You struggled violently on the floor, her eyes red as she stared at me. Well, you know how to fight back. You sneered twice and then stopped struggling. I held her down like that until the police arrived. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief and let her go, handing her over to the officers. The first thing the police asked was if there were any other victims. I pointed to the freezer downstairs. There are bodies in the freezer. And she threw another one in a suitcase into the river. Hearing this, the police began to investigate the villa. As a witness, I was naturally taken to the police station. After the evidence was collected, the police drove me back to my workplace. When my friend saw me, he immediately rushed over and hugged me. "What happened to you?" "It's a long story." Later, the news reports about Yue's case were not very detailed, but in this line of work, you hear things. It turned out that Yue had drugged both Yue Song and her husband, then killed and dismembered them. The dismembered bodies were in the freezer, some in the third compartment, some in the second. As for Nan, they found him downstream in a reservoir, also dismembered. I suddenly felt grateful that this woman hadn't suspected me too much. Otherwise, I might have been the fourth soul to fall to her blade. After that, whenever my friend tried to introduce me to rich women who lived alone, I refused every single one. You had left an indelible psychological scar on me. Whenever I saw those rich women, I could only picture you covered in blood, and the two pairs of hands in the freezer. It was too disgusting. In the end, I continued to work at the massage parlor, still pretending to be blind. Rich women who requested my services were endless. Perhaps my skills were truly superior. Within a few years, I had earned enough from these women to live comfortably for the rest of my life. I packed my bags, took all my money, and prepared to leave this place of trouble. My friend was right. The massage business runs deep, and one wrong step can lead you into an abyss. In a new city, I used the rest of my money to open a sign language school and began teaching deaf and mute people. To be honest, this kind of life was truly stable and comfortable. At least I wouldn't dream of bloody hands and the image of you brandishing her dagger every night. My experience with you was truly a beautiful nightmare.